What's going on, guys? It's Sage, and I'm here with Chris from Brain Pipers. And today is an interesting discussion because our agency and our service is all about how to build a multi-channel approach, meaning how do we build a sales channel so that we can grow on Facebook, Meta, TikTok, etc. Well, today I'm happy to introduce Chris because he's been working for over 10 years on another platform, and that's Amazon. And Amazon is actually one of our most focused and prized platforms that we'd like to help build out as well, and that we often take Amazon sellers from Amazon and bring them to a multi-channel, safe multi-channel approach. Chris, I'll let you talk all about your Amazon services and just give a little bit of an intro to yourself, and we'll have you take it away.
All right. Thank you, Sage. My name's Chris. I'm with Brain Pipers. We started off as a seller on Amazon years ago, probably 25 years ago, and we ended up realizing you can't just be a reseller. You need to help brands. You need to offer value to the brands. So we started bringing services to the brands to help them with their web pages, their landing pages on Amazon. There's storefronts. There's a brand story. There's images. There's lots of things you can do on Amazon to make the pages shine and tell a story. And so we started offering those services, and now we are doing that as a generalized service for everybody. And one of the key areas that we work on currently, one of the things that's really happening in the Amazon space right now is a transition for search on Amazon. They used to be, it was called A9 algorithm. It was keyword based. You do a lot of keyword stuffing, and it was just a mess. And it was very fragile from a customer point of view, because if they said, I want a camping gear. Well, you're not selling camping gear, you're selling tents, you're selling sleeping bags. And so the findability of things just based on looking for camping gear was just not sufficient. And so they now have a new algorithm which looks at very specific attributes for a product, but also more natural language. So there's Rufus and Cosmo that people may have heard about. You need to optimize your pages for Rufus and Cosmo to be better aligned with how customers are searching now and are going to be searching in the future. That's what sure. We've been looking at. And the other reason this is important is Amazon is integrating Rufus into Alexa Plus, which is their voice device. And so, the future of search is, Alexa, find me camping gear, find me a sleeping bag under $50. And so you need to make sure that your products are aligned with how Rufus is, how customers are talking, what is their intent when they're searching. So that's kind of where we've been focusing.
Yeah, makes sense. And so are you doing like an A to Z management approach right now, or are you more on the PPC side, or how would you take a normal brand just going about their day making, let's just say they've got an average ACoS of like 40% just trying to get by, trying to do stuff. They've tried additional marketing and other platforms. They've tried more PPC campaigns, more keywords. Where does your strengths come from, and what approach do you like to take?
It's funny. Yeah, sorry. Our approach really is more of a, where's the puck going? So that you can stay ahead of it, finding because PPC is one piece. I mean, on the Amazon ecosystem, PPC is the equivalent of buying orders, unless you're doing lots of other things. And you don't want to be buying orders as a brand. You want to be buying customers. And so there's a lot of things you can do in terms of, that are outside the PPC world. There's page optimization. There's post-purchase collection of customer information. So you're building your mailing list, because that's the piece that's going to have the most value is, do I have a mailing list that I can speak to? I mean, on Amazon, you have to be super careful with that, because you have to be directing, if they're obtained through Amazon orders, you need to make sure you're redirecting them back to Amazon, or you'll get your account turned off real quick.
Right.
So there's things like that, but there's creator work on Amazon. Amazon is not the best from an influencer point of view. Obviously, TikTok and others have done a much better job of that, but that is a part of Amazon that is there, and that they do promote, and then there are some things you can do. So there's lots of levers you can pull on Amazon beyond just the PPC side, and that's what we specialize in advising companies from the aspect of all these different areas. One of them being, how do you optimize your listing for this new ecosystem that is developing on Amazon? And so, that's kind of an area that we focus in. And another area that you can focus in is B2B. I mean, Amazon's really spending a lot of money on the B2B side. They feel like they've conquered the B2C world. They're putting a lot of money on the B2B side. So Amazon Business is its own portal, and brands can be doing things on the Amazon Business side. So we've done a lot of work to make sure we're understanding that, and how does a brand optimize for that world as well. So yeah, more of an advisory, high level. How do we, most brands are overwhelmed with all the things that they could be doing, as I'm sure you run into that all the time too. And so how do we help brands make good decisions and not succumb to the overwhelm and not do anything? How do we decide what's next to do? That's kind of our specialty.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of the optimization side, because I mean, that's very true. A lot of the time you can spend more on ads, you can do a bunch of stuff to, try to increase orders. But at the end of the day, if your product, your store, your landing page, like all of that on Amazon, especially your keywords, is not optimized, you're not going to be able to get those conversions. It's just your CRO is bad, your SEO is, a bit poor, and your CTR, as well as just stuff that we've talked about, which are like, the A9, Rufus, how that has transitioned as well. Are there any, like, if you had to say like a handful of, major focuses that any brand can apply to their Amazon approach right now, what would it be as of right now in 2025, end of 2025?
Yeah, I think what we've been advising our brands is optimize your pages. You've got to make sure they're aligned with the new AI systems, Rufus and Cosmo, or they will start disappearing from search results. And discoverability is important, as always. So that dealing with creators both on Amazon and off Amazon is important, because that is obviously a huge piece for building your brand, building your mailing list. Well, you mentioned also too, I didn't mention this earlier, but the click-through, the CTR is hugely important, and that should be part of your optimization. I mean, looking at your main image, that's the quickest way to improve everything, including your ad spend, is can you improve the click-through rate on your hero image? Because that's all you have in the search results. You've got your hero image, you've got your short description, and you've got your price. And, a quick win, Amazon has very clear guidelines on what a hero image should look like, white background, but there's been a lot of pushing of the envelope on that. I mean, and Amazon doesn't mind you pushing the envelope, if something's waterproof, showing it underwater, with maybe water around it, or if it's got fruit flavoring, then showing some pieces of that fruit next to it. It doesn't just have to be the packaging in the in the brown box. You can do a lot more to tell your story in your hero image, and so that's a huge area that can really have an impact.
So as we talked about, in order to have a good Amazon approach, and good meaning getting more profit, getting more sales, and making sure that you're ready for a multi-channel approach where you're on multiple social medias, also you have your own website and you're getting more emails, you have to worry about your Amazon conversion rate. I always talk about conversion rate, CTR, SEO when I'm talking to clients about being very, very huge factors, huge pieces to the puzzle of how do I get Amazon optimize before I take this leap to somewhere else?
Mhm.
And there's so many things that you can do for that, right? We talked about PPC. SEO is its own thing, and arguably sometimes SEO gets a bad rap because it's something that needs optimization not once but as the times change. But overall, I would say the number one thing that you could do right now, if you have an Amazon brand and you really want to just see some increases in sales, you're spending on PPC, you've got some optimizations, and maybe you're, an in-house type of person and you've DIY done it yourself and you're optimizing on your own at home, making some leaps and improvements to your brand. CRO, or conversion rate optimization, is going to be one of those most important things most of the time, because if and when I'm on Amazon, I'm mostly comparison shopping. And so, as we talked about, the generic brands are showing different types of product images. In some cases, they're showing product images that aren't as quality or aren't as authentic as we want them to be. Conversion rate optimization makes your product stand out against competitors, and more importantly, informs the desired customer on what your product is and how does it benefit them, and why is it good, and why is it different than the ordinary average generic piece of product that I can just pick up online. And
Mhm.
that's what this approach is all about, right? And
Yeah.
I know that you put together a listing intelligence offer that's going to help with conversion rate optimization. So I'll let you go ahead and present that and break that down. Chris is gonna show you how you can go ahead and do that.
Yeah, thanks, Sage. Yeah, no, you're exactly spot on. The listing optimization is one of the key components of making sure your conversion rate is where you need it to be, because that obviously impacts your paid side of things. It's just going to make your paid advertising more efficient, along with hopefully getting more organic sales as well. So it pays benefits on both sides. And what we found is that a lot of everybody's on Chat GPT now, and so it's sort of like I saw a great picture the other day of the metaphor that goes with this is, because you have Chat GPT, you're an AI expert and you can do product optimization. And so this showed a baby holding a knife saying, "I'm a chef." Just because he holds a knife, he thinks he's a chef. And so you can. And the kind of idea behind that is there's danger there too. You don't want your baby holding a knife thinking that they can wield this thing successfully. You can do damage. And so what we found is that just because you have AI tools doesn't mean that you know how to optimize a listing. And so what we've done is we've created a service that will there's a few different levels of the service. So the first one is, and again, this is kind of comprehensive in terms of what you want to look at. You want to look at bullets, bullet points, titles, images. Images are super important, like we said, and not just the hero image. I mean, there's other images and there's things that Rufus and Cosmo, Rufus specifically, are looking for. It can now read images. It can detect what's in the image. It can detect what's happening in the image, the scenario of the image, along with the text that goes with it. So making sure your images have benefit statements in there, not just showing a product from 5 different angles. That just doesn't hack it anymore. And so our essential optimization focuses on looking at keyword research, because that's still important, even though we might need to modify it from the aspect of intent of the customer and that sort of thing. Copywriting the title, the bullets, the description, doing competitor analysis, looking at reviews. So that's our basic package, essential optimization. And then the one that most brands are most interested in is you get all of that, but you also will look at more specifically customer research, looking at, you have to understand your ideal customer profile to make this work. I mean, if you don't know who your customer is, you're going to make bad decisions. And so, because that's what Rufus is doing. Rufus is saying, what is their intent of this customer, which is kind of creating a profile of what they're looking for. And so you need to make sure your product page answers the questions that the Rufus customers are going to be asking. And so, doing the analysis of who's the customer, who's the competitor out there too, because someone comes to your page, they might be going to other pages too. If we understand why someone doesn't buy my product, that's just as important as knowing why they buy the product in the first place. And so understanding the competitors, the competitive landscape, again, looking at images, image strategies, like we talked about. What should the hero image look like? What's the story that the other images should be telling? They should be supporting the bullet points. What should the A+ content, which is your place to really dig in and tell your story and really provide a lot of detail, what should that look like? So that's kind of the next level. And then the final level is the complete brand optimization, is all of that, but more detailed mock-ups of A+ content, more details there, helping you develop a brand story, which is a module that shows up on every page, which is a quick upgrade to your page if you don't have it as a brand, creating a brand story, which then can point to your branded storefront. So looking at what all of those things should look like, and then strategic recommendations about what the brand should be doing with the product pages, the brand story, and the brand storefront. And then we have, along with that comes some consulting and support to making sure that this is getting implemented in the best possible fashion, because there's a lot of detail here, so you want to make sure it's being done right.
And I think it's worth noting, all of these things are facts. Like, you need to have a optimized Amazon front on the A+ side, the main image, the gallery, all of that, all of the little details that make big differences for the customer, and to have the customer in mind, right? But more importantly, you have been in the space for a very long time. In fact, we've had conversations where you said, Amazon, I was on Amazon where it was very wild, wild west, where TikTok Shop, for example, is right now. And I think that's the benefit that a lot of people are getting when they're working with, Brain Pipers or yourself, is they're getting long-term experience. And I think not a lot of people in the space today that, can say that, maybe they have 5 years, 6 years, of experience, and maybe that experience is filtered through different careers and different paths. But you've been in through the weeds, and as the sculpture is being made. So that's worth noting as well, right?